Now on Radio 1, part 1 of the two-part documentary about the Pet Shop Boys.
We're certainly not about the truth.
The truth, we've never been about the truth.
It's basically the Neil Tennant story, I'm just an adjunct.
Of the two Pet Shop Boys, Chris is the icon, ultimately.
Well, I think Neil probably wanted fame and success to make the point to his school or whatever. It was like, ha, take that. He always mentions the fact that he didn't used to like football and it's kind of getting his own back. He was the kind that used to nick off school and go to the library and do theatre, so it was a triumph of his type over your footballing type. What's the word you would use for that? Revenge.
I wanted to be a pop star from a very early age. Firstly, because it looked, in the 60s when I was a kid, it looked like a really exciting thing to be. Secondly, I was physically insecure and I wanted to be loved. Thirdly, I always thought I could do it.
I don't know what I've got out of it, really. I don't know. I've found the whole thing really strange, puzzling.
I don't think Chris did want to be a pop star. It just happened anyway. People often think that what we're doing is some sort of piss take, when it's not. We are often unintentionally funny. We are often perceived to be ironic when we're not being ironic. People assume that we're somehow distanced and detached, whereas in fact what we're normally trying to do is communicate something that really is very, very real. And in our lives we've dealt with many difficult things in our personal lives, and they tend to be reflected in our songs.
Typical deadpan vocals. Actually, they're not deadpan at all. They're kind of charged with tons of emotion.
We've been thinking about wigs for a long time.
I liked people to think that we weren't dexterous musicians. It's one of those things you'd be embarrassed about. We're always given the impression that someone else did it, you know. You don't want to appear that you're too talented, do you?
Pet Shop Boys always react against things. You know, if there's a Brit pop explosion going on, the Pet Shop Boys are to be found singing in Spanish. We sort of can't help that.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
Oh, good one. Have you ever had any ghostly experiences? Emily, West London.
No.
Neither have I. Good question, then.
Right, well, the time I met Neil, I was a student at Liverpool University. I think I had quite long hair, probably a bit geeky. I was doing my year out in London, and I just moved to a really horrible little bedsit in Chelsea, which just happened to be around the corner from Neil's. I was probably a bit studenty. Knew I didn't really want to do architecture full time. I just knew that I didn't really want a normal life of working, being under stress and having no time to myself. But I didn't really think of any alternative. I've always wanted the same things, having lots of friends, partying, and being happy. But I think I strive for that too much and inevitably end up unhappy, sad and depressed and lonely. I spend a lot of my time thinking that I'm not having as good time as everyone else. So I was probably very much like that at the time. I probably thought, well, this is pretty miserable, isn't it, being stuck down here in a bedsit with sky blue and orange walls and a one-ring cooker which you could only make something like baked beans on toast on. I was 21, going nowhere.
When I first met Chris, I was 27 years old. I was living in a studio flat on the King's Road in Chelsea. I was working for ITV Books. I was doing things like the Looking Pop Annual, a series of books called Animals in Action. I finished a relationship with a girlfriend at the end of the previous year. I was musically into new wave kind of music. Elvis Costello, The Clash. Right at the same time I met Chris, suddenly smash hits came into my life. And you can look back at it now and see that it was a time of complete change. If you believed in astrology, my planets must have been all in alignment or whatever they do when your life changes.
Listening back to Unfinished Songs, August 1996.
Oh, this is a good track. This is a bit more like it. Guess what was number one the week we did that record? It's totally obvious. Babylon Zoo.
I'd always loved music and everything, and I used to enjoy just doodling around on the piano for hours on end and that. But I never really thought you could actually do anything with it. It's just not really an option, is it, being a pop star?
I'd always written songs since I was really young, since I was about 12 years old. I'd always written songs. As at primary school I wanted to write a musical, so I've been wanting to do that for a long time. I thought musically at this time, because I was 27 years old, I thought I'd missed the boat. I mean, it was just a reflex to me to write songs, really. It was just something I always did anyway.
Other people become pop stars, don't they? And other people become footballers and things like that. It's not what you do. I think I must be quite fatalistic, really, because I wasn't surprised either when it all kind of happened. It just seemed, oh, you know, this is what's going to happen. But Neil's more of a driving force anyway, so he's more likely to have kind of made something happen. I would never do that.
TFI Friday, November 1996.
You met 16 years ago.
Yeah, 1981, I think.
1981. Can you just, because I know it was in an electronic shop on the King's Road in London.
It's still there, Chelsea Records.
So who talked to who first?
Well, wouldn't it be me?
I was going to say it was, yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, I'm not...
But he's not the most forthcoming of men, though, is he? So, I mean, you know, when you asked him, because didn't you think he's a bit dull? I'm not going to talk to him anymore.
No, I thought it was funny.
Did you?
I think he made some kind of joke or something.
Did you?
The first thing we talked about was, well, in my recollection of things, was all our favourite records. I know that we both really liked David Bowie. I remember we went to the pub across from Neil's flat and chatted for ages, and Neil probably first suggested writing some music together.
I mean, it always seems to me surprising that we decided to write a song together. I never quite clearly remember us actually doing it. But I had the synthesizer and Chris was fascinated by it. He just immediately started improvising something. And I, had this acoustic guitar. I suppose I sort of vaguely played along. He had a different way of looking at music from me. I looked at music in terms of chords, melodies and words, and Chris looked at it as rhythm, bass lines, and melody, But even now, we look at music in a different way, which is a good thing. We fill each other's gaps.
Trying to record a new single, August 1996.
Shall we listen to this through from the top? Are you gonna listen?
I am listening. I can't switch my ears off,
I don't think that's true, actually.
Well, I cannot concentrate.
Bit of
That's not loud
volume.
enough.
I don't speak the language, I can't understand the world. When angels fear to tread, I sometimes walk and try to talk. But how can I be
Oh, I don't know. I sort of think if we're going to do this, we should start from scratch and make a new record of it.
There's no point starting anything now, is there?
No point starting now. And what time is it? It's 7:10.
I always prefer album tracks to singles anyway, though. That's my problem. I don't normally like hit singles. I mean, when's George Michael ever written a single? He never writes singles, does he? They're all album tracks. Well, Wham, yeah. And that was all Andrew Ridgeley anyway. Yeah. And that other one, David Austin, it was all David Austin and Andrew Ridgeley. We could speed it up and make it more single-like.
That's what I'm saying. If we do anything, we've got to start from scratch.
Anyway,
pretty
let's listen
much.
to this, and then before Coronation Street starts in 10 minutes...
We won't be able to do that.
Neil, I can knock up a new bass line and stuff really quick. Takes literally seconds.
We started off this trying to do an edit of Discoteca and Bilingual together, and we couldn't do it because it becomes a medley. It starts to sound a bit like Jive Bunny.
Come on, everybody!
Come on, everybody!
You can actually sing that over it.
Yeah, it's the right rhythm. Oh yeah, this is it. Come on, everybody! Oh, I think it's a waste of time. It's really.
We need to write something more like the Spice Girls for the next single, don't we? Neil, at the time I met him, looked very booky. He wore glasses and... Oh, I know what he was. He always used to wear a Just 17 sweatshirt inside out. But he didn't look like he had pop star potential at all. In fact, I was amazed at the transformation. Stunned.
He was 5 years younger than me. I thought he was quite unusual. He was very self-conscious, in a way. He had outrageous opinions, which of course he still does. Or you could interpret them as outrageous. He was sort of unsure of himself. Actually, it's a strange mixture that he still is. He was unsure of himself, in some ways, but also completely sure and clear about his likes and dislikes. 100% clear about his likes and dislikes. I'm sort of the opposite. I'm reasonably sure of myself. I'm never 100% sure of my likes and dislikes.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
I have a question to Chris, but I think it's an embarrassing one. Really? Oh, it is an embarrassing one. I'd like to ask you, if it is too cheeky, what would you do if your private parts started to itch when you are in public, on stage, during interview, etc.? We all know the answer to this. Would you scratch no matter how embarrassing it would be, or would you wait until it stops itching? Claire, Hungary.
I would obviously scratch. Just like I would pick my nose.
And indeed have done on television several times.
Scratch my bottom. Do anything like that. I've got a problem with that. I wouldn't find it embarrassing. Because everyone has an itch every now and then. They're there to be scratched.
Many's the time I've said to Chris, do you have to pick your nose live on television? The immediate impact of me meeting Chris was that he liked different kinds of music to me. He liked imagination, body talk, which I was sort of a bit appalled by in a way, because it's not the kind of music I would have thought was cheesy. I mean, I was someone who had one of those grey raincoats that one later thought of as the Garba Vecchio and the Bunnymen fans. We both liked Soft Cell, Tainted Love, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, and Bed Sitter.
And now I'm all alone in Bedsit Land, my only home.
And that synthesizer thing that was happening definitely interested both of us.
We used to do these sort of demos of songs, recording from the keyboard to the cassette player and then overdubbing all the time, putting loads of different things on and trying to remake these electronic dance records, use sequences and stuff, all played manually, thinking everything we were doing was absolutely brilliant.
Chris didn't like the kind of words I wrote. It was at this time that Chris made his remark to me, which he can't remember making, that I should make the words more sexy and not be so singer-songwritery. And that definitely changed the way I thought about writing lyrics. I suddenly realised we were writing songs that I would never have written myself before. I deliberately wrote the kind of words that I thought Chris would like, about very strong, passionate feelings, rather than any kind of analysis or anything like that. It was more about a sense of anticipation or the excitement of going out into London. London seemed exciting in those days. Chris and I have always walked around London a lot together. Even now, you'd be liable to bump into us wandering down in Dean Street or something.
I think we were very influenced by Depeche Mode at the time, so you tended to get sort of plinky plonky kind of synth sort of sounds.
We had this song called Bubba Dubba Dubba Dum, and for some reason I thought this stupid chorus. We had another song which had spoken verse and then just had a little theme as the chorus. It was the most unusual song. It's called Oh Dear. I was walking down the high street in the middle of the night. Someone caught my eye and I nearly died of fright. Crossed the road to whisper something secret in my ear, and now I'll never be the same again. Oh dear. We used to think it was really funny, this. I was walking down the high street in the middle of the night. Someone caught my eye and I nearly died of fright. Crossed the road to whisper something secret in my ear, and now I know I'll never be the same again. Oh dear. Anyway, I looked up in the back of Melody Maker, a little 8-track studio, and we went and made this demo. We called ourselves West End. All the record companies we sent them to rejected it. And anyway, the wonderful thing that happened was the guy that owned the studio, Ray Roberts he was called, he was quite impressed. And after that, in that autumn 1982, Chris and I started going into his studio.
Running a demo studio, 99% of people are totally boring, I'm afraid. I gradually began to realise that there was something a bit different about their songs. And I really got genuinely interested in extracting their talent, you know, making the most of it. They would come in on a Saturday, maybe around about lunchtime. The main room, the studio, was where we all worked. And the control room was a little room under the pavement, actually. It used to be a coal hole, believe it or not.
And during that period we wrote loads of songs. We'd often write 2 a night or 3 a night or whatever. We wrote things like Jealousy, Rent, It's a Sin.
And then one day Chris said, why don't you sing Let's Make Lots of Money? And he was playing this thing. And I think he actually sang Let's Make Lots of Money. And I thought, oh, I've got the brains, you've got the looks, let's make lots of money. We wrote the whole song immediately in about 5 minutes. And we thought it was funny, we were laughing while recording it. We were laughing.
Discussing the concept of irony, November 1996.
The problem is, in the age of hip, where everything's got to be cool and hip, something which we've never ever chased, the only way people can translate what we do into hip is by saying it's done with ironic detachment. That immediately, when you say detachment, that immediately plunges it into the realms of cool and hip. And so, so it's quite nice. People then think what you're doing is cool and hip. But in fact, there is very little that we do that's got ironic detachment about it.
And therein lies the irony.
And therein, yeah, it's a good word.
Isn't it ironic?
With us, when we are ironic, it's an ironic sense of humour. So the first ironic record we made was Let's Make Lots of Money.
Oh, was that meant to be ironic?
It's your title.
Well, I didn't mean it ironically.
Didn't you?
Well, let's make tons of money, tons of dosh.
I think you did, actually.
You post-rationalised it, because you thought he wouldn't be right on to sing that, really.
I wouldn't have wanted to sing it anyway, non-ironically.
No.
I thought it was a sort of, I thought it was meant to be ironic. Anyway, I think you did too. I think Chris is being ironic right now.
I mean, it's a very exciting time musically because all the sort of underground clubs used to play a type of music that no one else ever heard, whereas these days everyone hears the same music. At that time, there was a whole section, genre of music that very few people knew about. A lot of the high energy music and Patrick Cowley and all that kind of, really simple electronic stuff with a great atmosphere and a lot of energy to it. And you felt that you were part of a fantastic, privileged sort of clique. You felt that you were tapped into something new and you could use that as a vehicle for you expressing your own music.
It was in heaven, somewhere like that, I can't remember where, that Chris heard Passion by Bobby O. And he asked the DJ what the record was, and the DJ said it's Passion by the Flirts. And this particular record suddenly became a major inspiration for what we were trying to do.
Listening back to Unfinished Songs, August 1996.
Hey, I've done one of those for a while.
Time for more of these. I used to like music when it was like this. Sorry.
It's like Passion,
I did.
P-A-S-S.
When I first heard Passion by the Flirts, I just thought, this is so great that I don't need anything that I've ever heard before. I just thought this is the starting point of everything that I'm going to like. And it was so minimal in electronic. I just loved the fact that the bass line was just an octave, just so simple and yet so strong. It made me feel totally exhilarated. I used to play it non-stop and the record just built and built and built. And the way the song built into this climax.
I wanna be a woman, come on, be my man. This feeling that I have for you, I understand.
It seemed like a totally new form of music to me. It was just going to change everything. Everything else just become redundant at that point. And then kept hearing other records that I discovered were also Bobby O. Not necessarily the same, but things like She Has a Way. I was just totally inspired by it. Yeah, like I do. I mean, that's what I'm like. I get really excited by things like that.
Unfinished Songs, August 1996.
I love stuff like this, I'm sorry. I can't help it.
Very 80s sounding. I need you.
I've always liked that. I don't think we're 80s enough. That's our problem.
Let's just be 80s. What everyone wants from us.
No, I didn't know anything about Bobby O at all. Just that his name appeared on all these records. And also it was very exciting because they were only available on import and they were quite expensive. So you really felt that you were getting something rather special. Something you could only get from 2 record shops in London or something. And I don't know I thought Bobby O would be like. I probably just thought he was some old producer sort of person. Not what we discovered he was, some sort of funky Italian mad type of person.
I was editing the Smash Hits yearbook, and they needed someone to interview the Police in New York. And I said, if I don't want to do that, I don't really like the Police, can't you get someone else to do it? And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and see Bobby O and play him our demo tape that we've been making. And I told Chris that was a great idea.
This quasi-shy, nervous-looking guy walks in the room, about in his 20s, very clean cut, and he said, oh, hi, I'm Neil Tennant. I'm a big fan of yours, and here I am. I always love talking to people who have been fans of mine.
I think he'd forgotten I was coming, maybe. But anyway, he perked up, and we went down to the cafe, the Applejack, for lunch, and we just chatted about the records, and music. And towards the end of the lunch, I mentioned that I was in this sort of group, and he immediately said, oh, let's make a record. I was completely astonished. I said, but you haven't heard anything yet. And he said, anyone can make a record, can't they, kind of thing.
He of course, had a British accent because he's British. And at that time, British accents were very in vogue. So I thought, when it turned out that he was an artist, I thought, well, let's see if there's anything here. Because he did have this British accent, and that in itself was intriguing from our company's perspective because we didn't have any British artists at that time. There was something about Neil that I thought would be interesting. Specifically, if there was some way we could take this image of this kind of guilty-looking, innocent-looking, Catholic-looking, proper-looking British guy and package it in a way where it would cater to a high-energy disco audience, but not really say anything.
And so we went back to his office and I played him. And I'd spent lots of money, the original demo version. And he said, wow, I could do that. I could do this. I could do this. And I remember thinking, well, I'm sure you could. I mean, it's based on you, ultimately, let's face it.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
Oh, God. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be a musician? Give up. That's from Marince Santa Fe.
If you think you're any good, stick at it. Well, it's true. And also just keep doing it,
Yeah, just do it if you enjoy doing it, and then something might happen if you're lucky. If it's meant to happen. If not, give up.
When people say how, I've sent all my tapes to AR departments, and I can't get any notice. That's why.
That's what we did. Didn't work.
Yeah, that didn't work.
Doesn't work.
We met Bobby O. That was a different thing. Well, we went for the niche that we wanted to be in, didn't we? As we still did, we still do. We went to the person who we were copying and asked them to produce our records. And it worked. It was like the most exciting thing that ever happened in my life. I was just on cloud 9 thinking, wow, we're going to make a record with Bobby O, I can't believe it.
I got phone calls saying, I've met Bobby O and he wants to do a record with us, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, couldn't sleep on that. I was really, really, really excited. Just the thought of going to America, because I'd never imagined even going to America in my life. It just seemed ridiculous,
I thought of this rap one day. I was staying at my cousin's house in Nottingham, and we'd been watching some Jimmy Cagney kind of gangster film. And when I went to bed, the lines, sometimes you're better off dead, there's a gun in your hand, it's pointing at your head, came into my mind, and so I got out of bed and wrote them down on a piece of paper. I loved the record, The Message by Grandmaster Flash. I always wanted to do something like that. When I got back to London, I lay on my floor in my flat, and it did it as a sort of stream of consciousness thing. I was just kind of going for it, and I was speaking it to myself in a kind of rap voice. It was kind of meaningless in a way, but it sort of sounded exciting, and it maybe did mean something as well. I spent hours rationalising it afterwards.
You are listening to the documentary about the Pet Shop Boys on Radio 1.
We had to choose a name before we went to New York. We thought Pet Shop Boys sounded a bit too dodgy. Just like a lot of things that we do. Even now I feel a bit embarrassed about the name of the group. Oh yeah, what's the group? Oh yeah, Pet Shop Boys. And then we thought, oh sod it, we'll do it anyway. I had a friend in Liverpool, his mum went, oh that's a fruity name. and it is, isn't it? It just sounds like there's something funny going on. I mean, it's a true story though. I mean, it's the reason the whole name Pet Shop Boys came about was because I had some friends who worked in a pet shop, and we used to call them the Pet Shop Boys. We never really thought. Actually, we used to joke that it'd be good to do "Haven't You Seen That Dog in the Window" by the Pet Shop Boys, and then of course we took the name for ourselves.
I said, go back to England, get your partner, and I'll bring you back to New York, and we'll cut a record. And that's what we did.
We agreed that he would pay the studio time, and we would get together the money for the fares. As you know what, I had no money, I got a bank loan. Because Chris borrowed the money from his grandmother to go over, and I borrowed the money from the bank. We went to Unique Studios early in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. Bobby O programmed a drum machine.
He programmed a drum pattern, which I think was based on Billie Jean King. Billie Jean King? That's a tennis player. What was it called? Billie Jean. Right. It was basically just the same drum pattern as Billie Jean by Michael Jackson.
And Chris and I were just told to play. And we were completely nervous. And we started to play this instrumental we'd written. And I said, you can do that rap over this. Bobby comes through and says, oh, hey, this sounds great, guys. This sounds really good. And so, okay, let's do it. And so we both stood there and we played all live. Dum, 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 dum. And he put it onto tape straight away. And he says, right, now vocal.
When I heard those lyrics, West End Girls, I thought, this thing just needs that kind of dark choir, that droning choir in there, very Catholic, very Neanderthal-like. To this day, I don't really know what Neil was trying to say in it, but I have a feeling that it was pretty much pitting a West End against an East End, pitting a male against a female, being able to interchange them at some point, and one is an underground dive bar, and the other one is from a different side of town or society. It's very class-oriented. So I thought that the best way to merge the two is by creating a dark sound underneath it, like these dark choirs, and then on top of it having this kind of happy, bouncing bass line, which kind of was symbolic in some respects of the positive sides of it. It really isn't a disco record as much as it is a dance record with dark tones underneath it. That's why I think great art comes from suffering.
Half an hour later, that's West End Girls recorded. Sometimes you're better off dead. There's a gun in your hand, it's pointing at your head. You think you're mad, too unstable, kicking in chairs and knocking down tables in a restaurant in a West End town. Call up police, there's a madman around, running down underground to a dive bar in a West End town. In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. In a West End town, a dead end world, East End boys and West End girls. West End girls. We went back to England, and I remember going to Smash Hits because everyone wanted to hear what we'd done. I paid them a lot of money.
I've had enough of scheming and messing around with jerks. My car is parked outside, I'm afraid it doesn't work. I'm looking for a partner, someone who gets things fixed. Ask yourself this question, do you want to be rich? I've got the brains, you've got the looks. Let's make lots of money. You've got the brawn, I've got the brains. Let's make lots of money.
And of course everyone was very trendy, and they all liked Pet Shop Boys, the hip-hop instrumental best. And I was too embarrassed to play people West End Girls because I thought it sounded too personal. And I didn't like I thought my voice sounded too wimpy doing the vocal. I used to play the songs to David Bostock, Scoffer, he was always known as, one of the designers at Smash Hits. And he was really quite encouraging about them. He was always known in the office for having good ears, Scoffer. he would tell you the Cure are going to be really popular and you would think it would be ridiculous. And then they weren't, all the rest of it.
But I guess the time I really realised that how good they were was when they came back from New York with his Bobby O demo, because I was the only person that Neil knew who had a double head tape deck. So I was basically duping up all his demos to send out to the record companies, and it was One More Chance, which was the track that really blew me away, that they'd done with Bobby O. And I just thought, wow, this is really, really good.
Just give me one more chance, just give me one more chance, just give me one more chance tonight.
One of the things I'm always staggered about the Pet Shop Boys is kind of Chris's dour demeanour that he has on stage. He used to bounce into the office and kind of be really full of what was going on. But he was desperate to design a page on the magazine, and I used to fob him off going, oh yes Chris, yes of course you can design a page on the magazine, no problem, no problem. But he did persist, he persisted, and I think he had a hand in designing an Aztec camera song lyric in Smash Hits actually. Neil always had this idea that he'd be this Svengali record producer. I think he was always in kind of tongue-in-cheek way, sort of sit around imagining fictitious bands. And at the time we had sort of 3 young girls in the office, and he kind of invented a band called the Saturday Girls, which basically kind of very Bobby O style, 3 girls fronting his music. And in fact I managed to get into one of his imaginary bands, which was the spin-off band from Saturday Girls. They were called the Saturday Lads. The song he invented for us was very much a kind of Joy Division song called Vivisection. I'm sure you can imagine it because he used to sing it incessantly all day as he was doing his work, typing away, writing. He'd be playing an imaginary sort of Peter Hook bass going ding 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 ding, Vivisection, Vivisection. We only had one song. I think if I imagine right, he had some not very PC ideas for the video actually, but it was the early 80s.
Neil listens back to the Pet Shop Boys' first commissioned work, November 1996.
Stick it on, stick it on, stick it on, stick it on. The Smash Hits collection. Stick it on. 6 free stickers. Swap them on. 1 free album. Stick it on. With today's Smash Hits. Stick it on. Smash Hits. 6 free stickers. Pass it on.
Sorry, it's a masterpiece. It's an advert for a Smash Hits relaunch issue where they gave away an album. You put Panini, they're called Panini stickers in it. And Dave helped with Smash Hits very generously. Asked Chris and I to do the music. And we earned £500. It was actually the first thing we ever earned as musicians. So the first time West End Girls was released, that's the Bobby O version, it wasn't a hit.
That was the ambition fulfilled, was West End Girl being released. We'd made a record in New York with Bobby O and then be able to buy it on import from the dance shop, an official Bobby O record. So we'd achieved everything we'd ever wanted to. I could never imagine it being a hit. It just seemed ridiculous, you know.
Well, when West End Girls came out, we did some press. And the first interview we did, I did a telephone interview with Betty Page. And Betty Page said, well, what about the name, Neil? I said, well, you know, we had 2 friends who worked at the Pet Shop, blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, Neil, come on. Everyone knows where you got it from. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I'm not that naive, you know. I said, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? She said, well, you know, it's gay slang in New York for this sexual perversion where you stick a hamster up your arse. And I was actually revolted. I said, what? She said, yo, don't pretend you don't know. Everyone knows about that in New York. I said, well, everyone may, but I've never heard of it. And I phoned up this friend of mine, David Keeps, New York. I said, do you know what Pet Shop Boys means in New York? And David Keeps said to me, wasn't it because you've got 2 friends who work in a pet shop or something? And I said, no, about putting hamsters up your bum. And he'd never heard of it, and I have a feeling he would have heard of it. So I think it's an urban myth. I think it's one of the great urban myths. And of course Richard Gere had the same thing attached to him several years later. But it's something that's followed us around.
I still don't believe that meaning anyway, the supposed meaning of the name Pet Shop Boys. Sexual practices with animals, or particularly hamsters or something. I still don't believe that anyone could possibly do that. And we certainly wouldn't base the name of our group on a deviant sexual practice. It's not the kind of thing we'd do.
And then of course the record came out, 2 weeks later it's all over, isn't it? So that was that really. It's totally bummed out. We thought we were doing something that no one else had done. And then, round about the time that West End Girls was released and wasn't a hit, there was a little high energy boom. And at that point we thought we'd missed the boat. And also I was thinking I was old. In 1984 I was 30. And that just seems like ludicrous to start trying to want to be a pop star when you're 30. I mean, it's a bit pathetic, really. Anyway, we carried on writing songs. We had this slightly sleazy, sexy thing we were trying to do. And sort of slightly sad and tragic as well. Back then, I wanted to imply things and suggest things rather than do anything openly gay.
He is the head boy of a school of thoughts that plays in your intentions night and day. And you wait till later tonight. You wait till later tonight.
We always liked the fact that it kind of was and wasn't gay at the same time. So it was sort of a teasing thing. But also, to have stated things explicitly would no longer have been exciting and intriguing. We wanted them to be intriguing and exciting, these songs. Not stating the obvious, really.
I wish I could come across you in the club or in the queue and find you changed your mind for an everlasting time. Oh, an everlasting time.
We became disillusioned with Bobby. We felt we were a bit messed around by him a bit. And we suddenly felt the whole momentum was slipping away. That's why we decided not to carry on with them.
I was, of course, upset about it. I was upset about it corporately, and I was upset about it personally. But people have to do what they have to do. You can't legislate a person's behavior. You can't legislate a person's feelings. I have a habit of being very paternal about things. I'm a very paternal person. But I guess I sensed afterward that people may not need you as much as you think they do.
I remember it becoming a bit frustrating. I didn't feel that we were actually going anywhere. And that's probably when we decided we needed a manager.
And we asked Tom Watkins, who we met because his design company, XL, actually designed the cover of West End Girls when it first came out.
Neil thought Tom would be great because what you need is a big fat manager. Someone that would go into record companies and wind people up and hype the whole thing.
Tom got us a deal with EMI in London, which involved getting out of the deal with Bobby O in New York, which actually took quite a lot of time.
I had my own vision, which ultimately they obviously did not follow, and their success is evident that they might have been right. But my vision was a little bit broader, a little bit bigger. My vision was to liberate the world, or to liberate the disco community, the war for disco truth. You know, that's what I was looking to do. And that was my main thrust. And EMI's main thrust, of course, was to make money.
We went out shopping with a stylist, and I was thinking, all I want's a gold chain. And the stylist, all he wanted to do was get us wearing ripped jeans and sort of going to Oxfam shops. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted to go to the expensive shops. I just thought, wow, this is fantastic. We're going out shopping. I got a gold chain, which you can actually see on the cover of the single for Opportunities.
It was never going to be a problem what Chris was going to look like, because Chris was going to look like Chris. Chris always knew what he liked. I didn't really know what I wanted to be like, really.
Press photo argument, August 1996.
See, I don't like this at all. Oh my God, this is so classic. That's Murray's phone number. Oh, hi Murray, it's Neil. This press pack thing that's been sent over, there's a black and white picture. It's really awful. Well, can you go now and stop them using this black and white picture? They're using one that's not approved. I can't believe it's actually really awful of both of us.
It better not have gone out. And
yes.
It's always the worst pictures of you
yes.
that get used the most.
Well, can you go and check and call me back? And can you cancel its use totally now, please? This always happens. I mean, it's the most awful picture, though. It's like on Very, the picture that ends up being used everywhere for the press was this awful picture taken on the day of the Go West shoot, where I'm holding that arrow thing. We had all those beautiful pictures done. And the most common press one used was one of me standing, looking bored on the shoot, on this stupid thing. Hello? Yes? I wish we had a different way of approving things.
We haven't approved that shot ever. But Neil, that's not even been approved once.
It has, actually.
Who by, Ian? I've not approved it.
It's been approved. At some point, it's got a tick on it.
How?
And we approved
You look like Dale Winson. I'm sure you wouldn't have approved that.
I look worse than you. I look terrible there. I look about 90.
Pets win prizes.
The first major photo shoot we did, I wore this big parka and this white shirt, and suddenly that started to define our look. But I was more the kind of posh one, and Chris was the urchin.
The idea was always to make them look like stills from a film rather than typical pop photos, jumping up in the air and with your hands out and a smile or laugh on your face, which was what most people did.
We wanted to have this air of mystery that we thought our music had. And we wanted them to look like they were part of something larger.
Press Photo Argument Part 2, August 1996.
So Q are going to use this because they did an exclusive picture, and the reason is it's never been used before.
Q are going to use that?
Yeah.
No, they're not. No, it's not being used.
No, it's okay. It will never be seen again. By that Q have got it. It's a pretty hopeless picture, I must say.
Well, we don't look exactly at the cutting edge, do we?
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. We approved about 7 or 9 pictures at the beginning of February.
I don't recall approving them.
Well, I recall us at my house approving them.
Well, I probably wasn't paying any attention.
Well, there you are. Well, tough bananas. Okay. What a nightmare. Speak to you later. Bye-bye. I don't know, sometimes the whole thing just seems to fly out of control in a weird way, and there's so many people involved, and if you don't sort of sit there doing it all yourself, it just doesn't happen right. I don't know. Anyway, we've caught that. That's only gone out to Q. And also Q want an exclusive picture. So because Q want an exclusive picture, they get the worst picture, because they get the one that hasn't been used because it's the worst picture. So the best magazine with the biggest circulation gets the worst picture. And of course it has a complete logic as to how they end up with the worst picture, because they want an exclusive. The only picture that hasn't been used, an exclusive picture, is the worst picture. So the biggest magazine has the worst picture. Anyway, it's only a photograph, for damn sake. So I left Smash Hits, and I phoned up my mother and I said, we've got a recording contract with EMI. And she said, but you're not going to leave your job, are you? And I said, well, actually, I did last week. And she was absolutely horrified. And that started a great period. Chris was staying at my flat then. And he said, could you come and sleep on my floor while he found somewhere else to live? I said, yeah, all right. And so, of course, he was there for a year, was the fact of the matter.
Neil probably said you can come down and stay for the weekend, and I probably never left or something like that.
And he did the same thing 10 years later. Came and stayed at my house in London until he found somewhere to live, and he was there for a year. And then we decided that Opportunities, There's Lots of Money, would be the first single. And we spent 3 weeks making this bloody record. Still can't believe it.
You've got the brawn, I've got the brain. Let's make lots of money. You got the brawn, you got the brain. You want money.
I think we also wanted to bring out the sadness of the song, which is why it had the line at the end about all the love we had and the love that we hide, who will bury us when we die. So that the person narrating the song, who I've always said, is a rather pathetic character who you don't believe will ever make any money. It makes it almost more of a song about loneliness than about making money, which is probably how I saw the song at that point. Then when we redid it for the album, for Please, we decided to leave the spoken bit at the end off because I thought it was too pretentious. All the love that we had and the love that we hide, who will bury us when we die? So Opportunities came out in EMI, and it got less radio play than West End Girls had got the year before. And it got to 116 or something, and that was that. And we weren't very happy about it. Anyway, we decided that we'd re-record West End Girls as our next single for EMI. It was such a lot of hang on it, let's face it, it hadn't been a hit, it would have been dropped probably.
I think it was Stephen Haig's idea to slow it down. I'm not sure. But we wanted it to sound more moody and lush and bigger.
Sometimes you're better off dead. There's a gun in your hand that's pointing at your head. You think you're mad, too unstable, kicking in chairs and knocking down tables in a restaurant in a West End town. Call the police, there's a madman around, running down underground to a dive bar in a West End town. In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. West End girls.
Chris and I used to go to a dive bar in Chinatown. It's still there. I don't know if it's still called the Dive Bar. It used to be called the Dive Bar. And it was a great place. No one used to go there. It was all Formica and a bit smelly. And there was some barman there who used to draw pictures of camp icons. And we used to love this place. Chris and I used to drink bottles of pills. And meanwhile, the record player in the corner would be playing the soundtrack of Cabaret or, kind of Barbara Streisand Live or something like that. It had a great sort of aesthetic down there. So when I was writing the words West End Girls, it was meant to be that dive bar.
Too many shadows, whispering voices, faces on posters, too many choices. If, when, why, what, how much have you got? Have you got it, do you get it? If so, how often? Which do you choose, a hard or soft option?
And also I remember when I lived in Tottenham when I was a student, when I first came to London, we used to clatter down the escalator in our huge platform heel shoes to go to Shagarama's, the first gay club I ever went to, in 1973. And there was something of that in it as well, like remembering that excitement of going to the West End. And it always feels a bit dangerous as well, to feel slightly scared, kind of wishing you weren't going really.
In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. In a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. West End girls. West End girls.
I also always liked, although it sounds pretentious, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, a famous poem. And what I particularly like about it was the way it brought in different voices and different parts of history into the same poem. And it sort of drifts into it. Suddenly it's a conversation between two old women on the top of a bus. Suddenly the man in the pub is saying, "Good night, ladies, please, it's time, good night, ladies." And all that stuff. I love the idea of that. So I brought in different voices into West End Girls, like, "Just you wait till I get you home."
You got a heart of glass or a heart of stone. Just you wait till I get you home. We've got no future, we've got no past. Here today, built to last in every city and every nation, from Lake Geneva to the Finland station. And a West End town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. Oh, West End town, a dead end world, East End boys, West End girls. West End girls.
The record company didn't want to release it. I don't think they thought it was the right single at all. But we were very sure that we loved the record, so we sort of put our foot down.
And it just had this gradual climb. It was a funny time. That was quite scary in a way. It felt scary, the whole thing. Because it entered the charts really low again, just like the last one, into like number 120 or something. And then suddenly it was number 84. Then it went to like 48 or something like that. And Gary Davis started to play it on Radio 1. He made a big issue out of it. And we went into the top 40, number 38 or something like that. Suddenly we had to do TV shows. And we didn't have an act. And I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. And you feel very self-conscious when the camera goes on. You just can stand there and mime the song. And I remember the first time we did Top of the Pops, I felt sick with nerves doing it. And I remember we were introduced by Steve Wright, who said we were the most unusual group or something. I didn't like what he said about us, really.
Most unusual song from an unusual band is the Pet Shop Boys and West End Girls.
I swatched it 2 days later and I was absolutely appalled. I thought we looked awful. I thought we looked really awful. Particularly me. I thought my movements were so stiff. But we just didn't do anything.
I decided to mime to the bass part, so I looked very static because my right hand wasn't doing anything at all. It looked like I was playing with 2 fingers, which just made it out of the sleeve of my jacket or whatever.
I was horrified. I felt tearful with horror at what we looked like. I just thought we didn't look glamorous enough or something. And also we didn't do enough. It was generally felt we didn't do enough. You know, what is the act? They don't do anything. They just stand there and he mimes the song and occasionally makes a little hand gesture. The other one just mimes the bass line, doesn't even look at the camera. It took us months, if not years, to realise that it was what we did.
There were a lot of pop groups at the time and they all used to jump around like they were really happy and stuff, and I thought, well, we're not doing that, you know, and we're not a good time party band. If you think of when Paul Young used to go on Top of the Pops, that's how most groups were. They had the singer and then they had 3 backing singers and then they had a guitarist and a keyboard player. And the keyboard player was used to sort of make tragic looks into the camera when it was on him and play with lots of fingers, and it was all very muso-y and everything. So we knew we didn't want to do that.
Chris has always been fascinated by minimalism anyway, in architecture, music, and art, everything. And it seemed it gave us a kind of minimalist ethos in terms of our performance that made us stand out from everyone else.
Off the top to number 3, Merry Christmas everyone, Shakin' Stevens. Still at 2, Saving All My Love for You, Whitney Houston. And that means we have a brand new number 1 in Britain this week, and it's a new number 1 from a new band.
They are the Pet Shop Boys and this is West End Girls. Here they are.
They phoned up the night before and said, yes, you're going to be number 1 tomorrow morning. And Chris wasn't there, Chris was at home or something. And I phoned him up and he said, oh God, I suppose it means we've got to do Top of the Pops again, does it? He didn't seem very excited about it. But actually we were dead excited, really. And then when we did Top of the Pops again that week, just as the camera was moving over to us, Chris hissed at me, don't look triumphant. And so we didn't, we were just minimal as usual.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
Hello everybody. Oh God. Chris, what are Neil's worst vices?
Oh, do we really have vices?
No, we don't answer this.
We don't do those, you know we officially don't do those answers.
Neil, what are Chris's most upsetting vices and the loveliest aspects of his character? I like that word, loveliest. That's from Mari in Italy. Well, Mari, we officially don't do those. We used to, didn't we, right at the beginning?
That's all you ever used to get asked, you know, by like Bravo magazine.
Or even Demon Smash Hits.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely standard joke question. And I think there's something slightly embarrassing about it, really.
It's all a bit personal, isn't it?
Yeah, the official answer is Neil is too bossy and Chris is too moody. That's the official. I can't remember what typically I can't remember what the good qualities are. Next. I think we were on such a roll with West End Girls gradually being a hit all over the place. It was quite interesting because at that point our next single didn't do that well. The single after that, Let's Spend Lots of Money, didn't really do particularly well, did okay. Did well, better in America actually. But then we sort of climbed back up again with Suburbia.
Let's take a ride along with the dogs tonight in Suburbia. You can hide along with the dogs tonight in Suburbia, in Suburbia, in Suburbia.
I remember the feeling that the whole thing was very unreal and I'd kind of lost footing in reality. A dream world had just taken over. I still feel like that. The whole thing seems very unreal. Neil doesn't feel like this at all. I think Neil finds the whole thing perfectly natural and can deal with it.
Listening back to unfinished songs, August 1996.
Is the champagne cold? Should we have some?
Do you think? Okay.
What have you bought it for?
Well, I was going to drink it at 8.
Do you have to wait till it?
No, I can't wait. Go on then.
Where's We Are Fat Northern Bastards? Another good one.
Phantom Deck.
It's another good one. God. Now wait a cotton picking minute.
This sounds good. What's this? Oh, this is Fat Northern Bastards.
Alright. And Deck again. I've been doing the album with them, it's all written.
You see, it goes, we are fat, northern, and then it goes, bat, bat, bat. It's sampled from the Beach Boys, Barbara Ram. So it goes, ba, 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 bastards. Ba, 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 bastards. They're quite good. Just a little snippet there.
Excellent. The next one's called Why Not? Why not?
Indeed. Indeedy-doo-dahs.
About the Pet Shop Boys was made by Chris Heath with Lucy Armitage. Part 2 is at 7 o'clock next Sunday. Now on Radio 1, Part 2 of the two-part documentary about the Pet Shop Boys.
What are we calling it that?
Well, it's good because it is about us, obviously.
Various Pet Shop Boys thoughts, November 1996.
I've never liked having to be serious, which is why being in a pop group's absolutely fantastic, because you can be a sulky brat all your life.
The thing Chris and I have always both liked most about music is that it gives you some emotional response or high. And you can hear that in Wagner, or you can hear it in a Kylie Minogue record. And we've never applied notions of taste to that.
I think my basic personality is to always do and feel the opposite of what you're meant to. So I'll probably be chirpiest if we're not being very successful, and more miserable if we are being successful. I've always assumed this will all be taken away from you anyway, so I'm probably always preparing myself for that.
We've never sold sex. Actually, I was thinking quite recently that it's difficult when you don't sell sex in pop music. It's very, very difficult. And the Pet Shop Boys have never done that because we didn't feel ourselves to be sexually attractive enough. And we were too embarrassed to do that anyway. If you're not selling sex, you have to write really good songs.
If you like what you've done, it can't be a mistake.
Bilingual's funny as well. Sounds a bit like bisexual.
I don't know what I think about fame, really. I certainly don't enjoy it in a way that Noel Gallagher really enjoys it, you know, lives for it. I'm one of the old-style whingers that complains about it, but is prepared to take all the good points of it and then reject the bad ones.
We wanted to present ourselves as we were, not giving an inch. We decided to make a mega over-the-top record with the spaceship at the front for some reason and bits of Latin at the end, and it was quite a different kind of record than we'd ever done, actually. In fact, we actually created the Pet Shop Boys archetype, that we had to do a high-energy, four-on-the-floor dance record with mega strings and weird sound effects.
So It's a Sin came out, and it was our second number one.
It was quite interesting, the reaction to the record, because first my mother told me the first time she heard it, she burst into tears, because she read it completely seriously, and she thought it meant that I had a very, very sad and unhappy childhood, and she felt very bad about that.
When I look back upon my life, it's always with a sense of shame. I've always been the one to blame.
And I had to say to her, I said, God, you know, we wrote the song about 10 minutes. It's sort of meant to be sort of a joke, really. It is sort of true about being brought up in a Catholic school, you know, where you are told that everything really to do with sex, actually, is a sin, you know. And you used to get told at school about, you know, this kind of kissing which simulates the act of sex itself. And you used to think, wow, what is that?
At school they taught me how to be so pure in thought and word and deed. They didn't quite succeed.
And then suddenly on the front page of the Newcastle Evening Chronicle, there was a big story emanating from St Cuthbert's, the school I went to, saying that I'd misrepresented the school and it was outrageous.
They thought Neil was slagging off his old school, which probably was because he hated it.
I was told afterwards by someone who'd been to the school at that time that you'd be suspended if you were found with a copy bits of sin within the precincts of St Cuthbert's, which I was actually quite thrilled about. And then, in contrast to St Cuthbert's, we were on the front cover of the War Cry, the Salvation Army's paper, saying how marvellous it was that the subject of sin was up for public discussion again. It's quite interesting, actually, that what really started off as one of our kind of silly, funny songs definitely struck a chord with a lot of people, for good or for bad.
Everything I've ever done, everything I ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin.
Tom Watkins, our manager, had for a while managed an American songwriter called Ali Willis.
And it turned out that she'd written or co-written Boogie Wonderland, so I thought, wow. And I think she suggested writing a song with her.
And we started writing it, and then Chris got in a very strange mood and walked out. Got in a bit of a mood about it all.
Oh, did I? Whilst we were writing it? I probably did. I was more prone to that kind of thing then, throwing tantrums and just storming out.
Anyway, Ali Willis and I talked him through this and we carried on and finished the song. By the end of the session, we were completely thrilled.
There are three very distinct parts to the song. Neil's bit, Ali's bit and my bit.
Chris had written all the intro, da 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 da.
Neil's was the "You always wanted a lover." Da-da-da.
You always wanted a lover, I only wanted a job.
And Ali Willis wrote, in my opinion, the best bit of the song, the "Since You Went Away."
Since you went away, I've been hanging around, I've been wondering why, I'm feeling down.
And anyway, the idea of the song was that it was about a love affair gone wrong between a man and a woman. So we divided the words up to make it like a duet. And we tried to get in touch with Dusty Springfield. I just always loved her voice. She's always been my favourite pop singer. And she just has a heartbreakingly beautiful voice. It's just always her voice.
She sounds like she's really lived it.
Anyway, she came in the studio and she sang it. It just sounded fantastic.
I still hadn't got a real clue what they wanted me to do, and proceeded to totally foul it up for at least 5 hours, thinking they wanted some more fireworks from me, which actually I'm not very good at. And finally they just said, "We just want the sound of your voice," which never occurred to me.
She said to us, "What do you want me to sound like?" And we said, "Well, you know, you."
Are we on the right tape?
Watching the Elton John documentary Tantrums and Tiaras for the third time, August 1996.
I think so.
This is LWT, now Tantrums and Tiaras, an extremely frank
Sounds not very good, is it?
diary of a year in the life of rock superstar.
Just turn it down a little bit more, sorry. Well, that's rock and roll.
If that isn't Spinal Tap, I don't know what is.
He's so knocked. Slam.
Our lips are firmly sealed.
Yes. Yeah, who does that remind you of?
Well, it's not me. I've never walked off a video shoot. Actually, he doesn't even walk off.
I know he doesn't, that's why.
Well, lightweight. I went the whole way, I didn't just pretend.
Oh, another tantrum.
What happened was Derek John was directing the video. He'd already done it to see him. We asked him to do Rent. I don't know what had happened, but when we got to King's Cross, Chris wasn't to be seen.
I got there and there was no one there. And I sort of waited for an hour and I thought, sod this.
And Chris was a bit paranoid as it turned out, that I was being treated as the sort of... Because I was the singer, it was always obvious what I did. And there was always a bit of a strain, actually. What does the other one do? And he was in absolute rage about it. We had actually the only screaming row we ever had in our entire career and friendship. And got annoyed and screamed back at him. Slammed the phone down.
God, is this all from Neil? Neil's got such a good memory for some things. I don't remember it being such a big deal. I remember going home and not doing the shoot.
We would normally get over that kind of thing by not really discussing it, by just dealing with the reality of it afterwards.
Chris attempting a multiple-choice magazine quiz about the Pet Shop Boys backstage at TFI Friday, November 1996.
Which was the Pet Shop Boys' second word? It's the Sin. Was it? Which of the following have the Pet Shop Boys never worked with?
I got them.
Lisa Stansfield. Hey, it's not too difficult. How many number one singles have the Pet Shop Boys had? No idea. 3? 4? Which of these actors didn't appear in the Pet Shop Boys cinematic flop? Which of these actors did not appear in the Pet Shop Boys cinematic flop? It couldn't happen here.
You are always on my mind.
It couldn't happen here, 1988.
Where are you going? I'm going there. But I like it here, wherever it is.
Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should.
It never actually entered my head we'd ever make a movie. In the mid-80s, though, people were always waffling on about video albums. And they came up with this guy called Jack Bond.
He met with us a few times over dinner. We just chatted about things and our lives and everything. You didn't realise this at the time, but he was actually taking mental notes.
This isn't a representation of where they were born or how they lived their lives, I'm sure. I saw it as two brothers coming up from infancy and going through this journey together.
Boys! Boys!
Who wants to leave the room? Tenant. Lo. Come, Lieutenant.
It's sort of spooky the way the film ends, I think, where me and Neil turn around and we both got these noughts on our backs, so I don't know if he's implying that we're both nobodies, I don't know.
That wasn't about them, that was about all of us, I thought, really. At the end of the day, at the end of the struggle, what do we leave with? Do we leave with anything? I suppose other than the triumph of having muddled through. The film, to me, if it has any meaning at all, is meant to be a tribute to people who just get by, despite all the crises, in such a magnificent way.
We worked so hard on that film, with actors, like Barbara Windsor and Joss Ackland, and it was all quite exciting, the whole thing. We were in what I would call our imperial phase, the pop stars get to when you've had a load of big hits. You feel very strong, confident, and after imperial, of course, is survival. But we were definitely, 1988 was our imperial year. The film came out, when there was previews of the film, I realised that everyone was going to think it was awful, because it wasn't a story, it was probably pretentious.
Where are you from?
Yes, where are you from?
I'm glad you asked me twice. You see, I'm a bilingual. I'm a bilingual illiterate. I can't read in 2 languages. I've just been fishing with Salvador Dali. He used a dotted line. He caught every other fish.
It looked like a kind of folie de grandeur, whatever you call it. Although when Chris and I first saw it, when it was finished, I really, really liked it. I found it rather weird and kind of brought tears into my eyes at various points. That's probably because it was us, though. But I know it's generally regarded critically by people who regard the Pet Shop Boys' career as a series of immaculately conceived moves, a very kind of heterosexual, incisive, journalistic way of looking at things, that the one mistake they made was to make this film. Well, of course, we always regarded what we've done as a kind of things came along and we did them, and they all seemed to work out, isn't that great? And we were most unapologetic about it at the time.
Father, forgive me. Whatever you taught me, I didn't believe it. Father, you fought me, because I didn't care and I still don't understand.
When 1987-88 we had 3 number 1 singles within the space of a year. And then when Dominant Dancing came out, I remember being in a car driving back from Sussex and listening to the chart live on the radio on the Sunday, and Domino Dancing going in at number 9. This is a record we thought would go to number 1. And I thought, oh, well, that's it. That's that over.
I don't know why, I don't know how. Thought I loved you, but I'm not sure now. I hear the thunder crashing, the sky is dark, and now a storm is breaking within my heart. All day, watch them all fall down. All day, domino dancing. All day, watch them all fall down. All day, domino dancing. All day.
I knew then, just like that, that was over. That phase was then over. The kind of hyper-pop phase was then over. Introspective, that it came from, actually was our best-selling album around the world. But you knew then that nothing would ever be as kind of easy again.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
What do you think about fans who love you too much, Marina? Well, it doesn't really happen that often. But obsessive fans are very annoying. I think it's unhealthy. So I think they are unhealthy because they project everything onto you and consequently have very little life of their own. And it stops them developing a life of their own. And then as they don't develop a life of their own, they blame their lack of the lack of their life on you. So it's all your fault. And then they develop a kind of love-hate, which becomes more obsessive.
It becomes more hateful.
It becomes more hateful. It becomes extremely annoying and horrible. But it doesn't really happen very often.
I agree with what Neil said. I refer the gentleman to the answer I gave earlier. The answer Neil gave earlier.
Patsy Kensit we'd seen around for ages. We thought she made crap records, is the fact of the matter, but she looked great.
She was always quite friendly with Neil, particularly. She used to say to him, oh, when are you going to do this record for me? You know, all the time.
I was just really pissed one night at this club and Neil was there and I went up to him and said, listen, when are you going to write me a song, do a song for me? And he went, well, that's a really good idea, actually. And they sent me a tape of I'm Not Scared. And in retrospect, I think it was a fantastic take on their perception of me with all this sort of negativity. You know, I seem to be quite fearless about everything. The press, the media, I think all those kind of things in my mind are incorporated into the lyrics.
Your life's a mystery, mine is an open book. If I could read your mind, I think I'd take a look. I'm not scared, baby, I don't care.
For some reason, in 1986, Chris and I had an obsession with Princess Stephanie of Monaco, because she brought out one quite good record. And from liking Italian pop music, we moved on to liking French pop music, particularly with sort of tinkly, wistful melodies. And we had the idea that Patsy Kensit would make a great Princess Stephanie, French Euro type of singer. And actually on the B-side, she recites the entire song in French.
Oh, débarrasse-moi de ce chien avant qu'il meure.
Anyway, she had quite a good voice, I thought. I was quite surprised that she had such a good voice. And when we were recording the song, she was filing her nails in between takes. God, it made the most annoying noise across the microphone.
I don't remember that, but he swears it happened.
She was always nice. She would drive in this fantastically and horrible battered car. And she'd bring things like smoked salmon, bacon, cream cheese bagels into the studio with her and say, like a bagel, anyone?
And I thought, oh, this is a nice way to record it, you know, the sort of feminine touch, arrive with something nice to eat. We liked her. Still do.
She told me the other day that Liam Gallagher really likes that record. That someone had slagged it off and she said, I'm Not Scared, it's a top tune, that. Or something like that, I can't remember.
They went on to work with Liza Minnelli after that, with me, Miss Minnelli. So I felt quite privileged that I'd been there along there with them and her and Dusty, you know.
I suppose we saw collaboration as a way of being able to use more of our material, because we write quite a lot of songs and then you find that you can't really release them all yourself.
When the Liza Minnelli record was suggested, I think we just thought, oh, we can do that kind of thing. So they said, would you like to meet Liza Minnelli? And we said, yeah, okay, we'll talk about it. And of course, really, I was thrilled to pieces, and I think Chris was too, that we were going to meet Liza Minnelli and do a record with her. It just seemed like ludicrous. Because, you know, you never met someone as famous as Liza Minnelli. And when I was younger, when Cabaret was out, Liza Minnelli was a big thing for us. And so we were asked to meet Liza in the Mayfair Hotel. And Chris and I got the giggles walking down the corridor. And then we knocked on the door, this sweet and Liza Minnelli opened it. We all laughed. Liza laughed and we laughed. It was funny. We had a very nice chat. We immediately became best friends.
Liza Minnelli on Wogan, 1989.
My guest is one of the world's greatest entertainers. What can I do but introduce Liza Minnelli?
You know, it's so funny. I walked in. I mean, I've never made a pop album, right? So I thought the Pet Shop Boys. Oh, great! Now what'll I wear? That was all. I knew that I was going to be fine because Neil and Chris would look after all the music. I thought, what should I wear?
She does this unnerving thing where she rests her head in your lap. She's very physical, and you think, oh my God, I've got Liza Minnelli's head. You know, it's kind of that kind of thing. Or she'll cuddle up against you and things like that. She opens to you really easily.
I'd been to see the show Follies by Stephen Sondheim in London, the West End. And there's two songs I liked. One was Losing My Mind. And so we immediately did a demo of it, which actually worked dead well. We thought that was great. We thought, wow, there we are. Got a hit for Liza immediately. Simple as that. At this point, we could do no wrong. It's that we were imperial, you say, we could do no wrong. In our demo version of Losing My Mind, we had a sample of manic laughing.
You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind?
We both thought it was a really good hook. Liza comes from that Broadway tradition. She felt it looked like we were taking the piss out of it. So we left it out.
You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind?
Electronic happened all around about the same time. Before we went on tour in '89.
We went up to Manchester and started working at Johnny Marr's house.
They were the only synthesised bass music that appealed to me, really, besides New Order. I think really Neil was the only other kind of literate lyricist in the 80s besides Morrissey, really.
Well, I'd never met Bernard Sumner or Johnny Marr before, and I thought they were really funny, felt a natural affinity with them.
We'd already written most of the first album and we were glad for the respite, really, for someone else's input.
Yeah, a long time ago now, but they came up a Saturday evening. We just started throwing things down and everything we put down worked, and the song was written really, really quickly, and we got it to a stage. It took probably about 25 minutes, half an hour to do, and that's how Patience of a Saint was born. We were all very, very pleased with ourselves, and we said, okay then, well, that's the first track done, let's go to the Hacienda. It was a great moment in rock, great moment in pop.
Neil crumbled early on, but Chris, being the trooper that he is, stuck it out to the bitter end. It was a really wild night, actually. It was a really wild night. I guess there was a bit of joyriding going down at this party. Of course, Neil was safely tucked up in bed. No joyriding for Neil.
It was a good night.
Chris in the studio works like this. He comes in the studio, bleary-eyed, wiping the sleep out of his eyes because he's been to a disco all night. He lies down on the sofa reading Vogue or Loaded or something like that. He'll fall asleep and then we'll start working on the track, and then he'll wake up for half an hour. Okay, I'm going, I've got an idea. And he'll play something at the computer, you know. Brilliant, usually brilliant, I have to add. And then he'll go back to sleep again, like a dormouse. So he's got a strange way of working, but what he does put down is great, you know. I wish I could work in that way. I used to work that way, actually. Maybe he read about that and copied it off me.
First record Chris actually did a vocal on was Pananaro in 1986.
I never feel it's right me being, what do you call it, front man. It just doesn't look right. And I certainly don't feel right either. I'm meant to be moping around in the shadows. That's where I feel most comfortable.
Passion and love, and sex and money, violence, religion, justice, death.
I think I did a backing track by myself and I thought it was really good. And I thought, seeing as Neil wasn't there, I thought I'd sneakily have a little go at putting some, you know, vocal on it. But I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just thought, oh, I know, I'll just write a list out of some words that I like, obsessions and things. So I just read the list out.
Pananaro, which is always regarded as a great throwaway thing, has got the heaviest words ever in a Pet Shop Boys song, but everyone just assumes they don't mean anything.
Girls, boys, art, pleasure. Girls, boys, art, pleasure.
Pet Shop Boys interviewed on American TV show Entertainment Tonight, 1986.
There's a hot new British duo that's made its way onto the American pop chart. What kind of music do you hate?
Well, I don't like country and western. I don't like rock music. I don't like rockabilly or rock and roll particularly. Don't like much really, do I? But what I do like, I love passionately.
I remember we sampled that off the video of the programme, put it in, made that the middle bit.
I don't like country and western. I don't like rock music. I don't like rockabilly, rock and roll particularly. Don't like much really, do I? But what I do like, I love passionately.
We'd been to Italy and come across this youth called the Paninari. And I think Neil must have said, oh, this can be Paninaro, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because we'd always like those Euro records that have oh, whoa, whoa all the way through them.
That creates a different kind of Pet Shop Boys record. Well, of course, where Chris says a list. To this day, I think it's quite a basically strong idea. It brought his voice into the spectrum of sound or whatever. I was lighted in It's All Right.
I hope it's gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
Alright.
He definitely has a big reluctance about doing them.
I mean, I've never sung. I don't even know what my singing voice would sound like. I don't even sing in the bath.
This is the generic jingle for Radio 1 FM. Pet Shop Boys, Pet Shop Boys.
You're listening to the documentary about the Pet Shop Boys on Radio 1.
In 1989, we got an offer to tour Japan.
It was always a huge issue, particularly in America. They call them the biggest band ever not to play live.
We were never scared of touring, we just knew what we wanted to do and we could never afford to do it. We used to go to quite a few concerts at the time and we always used to find them a bit boring. You know, they come on, you're dead excited, you hear a couple of songs and then it starts to get a bit boring. And then, you know, you'd leave before the end to avoid the traffic.
The ideal show we wanted to do, which we kept cancelling, was to visualise every single song.
It was really good actually because it was the first time we'd really had any contact with the fans. It's a really great feeling. You know, you'd have all the fans with messages for you and things. Neil, you're a sex god and stuff like that. It's not very many people that actually get to experience that, so we're quite lucky in a way because it is a great feeling to feel that sort of warmth or just love or whatever from a large number of people. All sort of liking you and you're thinking, oh, tragic old me, you know, and I could do anything and they kind of like me, so. And also, I'll tell you what was good, I think we had It's All Right out at the time, which was quite high in the charts. I think that the rave scene was just about starting as well, which for me was the best time of my life, really. The whole thing just came together, what do you call it? Synergy.
The year 3000 may still come to pass, but the music shall last. I can hear it on a timeless wavelength, never dissipating, but giving us strength. It's alright. I think it's gonna be alright.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
Could I please ask Neil and Chris, how old were they when they left their parents' houses, and how often did they phone their parents, Emma, Birmingham? Well, I left home when I was 18 to go to North London Polytechnic. I moved from Newcastle to London, as documented in verse 2 of Being Boring, and I phoned my parents every Sunday, or once a week.
Do you?
Yeah.
Speak to mum and dad a couple of times a month or something.
From airports often.
Anywhere where there's a free phone. No, that's not true. I left home at 18 as well, to go to Liverpool. It takes a long time to suss out the people that you're going to get on with or that you like. Particularly at university. I mean, they literally played All Right Now by Free at the Freshers Disco. I bet they still do now.
I'm sure they do.
And I found that sort of thing pretty depressing.
And they played The Joker by Steve Miller. In those days I used to smoke. And we were early for the train. My parents drove me to the station.
You used to smoke in front of your parents?
I'm telling the story, all right?
Oh,
I didn't used to smoke in front of my parents. And we sat in the cafe and had a cup of coffee, and my mother offered me a cigarette. It was quite a touching moment.
You're grown up now?
It was precisely that.
So being grown up equals smoking?
Because she knew I smoked anyway, of course.
Didn't you feel embarrassed? Did you say no? I just said yeah. Not that I would have surprised. I found it all too embarrassing.
I said yes, and I was very touched, actually.
Did you go by yourself?
Yeah.
With like a bag?
Just have a sack and some trepidation, Chris.
Is that all?
And I got a flat in Tottenham where I lived for the next 3 and a bit years. I quite like living in Tottenham.
It's not where you live now, though, is it?
No, it's not actually.
After the tour, we started thinking about the next album, which was Behaviour.
We didn't set out to go mature. We've never set out to go mature. We set out as usual to make an album where every track could be a single. I think we used to say at the time we started to make 10 Kylie Minogue singles. This was just the period where Kylie Minogue made her best records, you know, like i.e. Better the Devil You Know. And, I mean, actually Being Boring was also an attempt to do a Stockacre and Waterman thing, believe it or not. We were always fascinated by the way Stockacre and Waterman would change key for their choruses. And so to be musical about it, the verse of Being Boring was written in A minor, or G minor maybe, and it simply went up a semitone into A flat for the chorus, which we wouldn't have never normally done before. It wasn't an attempt to be mature, it was actually an attempt to be like Stockacre and Waterman. This was the time of the Manchester rave thing, and I think there was an expectation that we would be making a sort of rave Manchester kind of album. In fact, we were quite influenced by what was going on there, but with the songs we had, it made it sound mellow. And the only really stompy Pet Shop Boys one was So Hard, which was the first single and the biggest hit from the album. Maybe the one reason the album being melancholy was my friend Chris Dowell dying as well. That might have had something. He died in 1989, and Being Boring was kind of about him and our lives together in Newcastle. But at the same time, I don't think you can really say it cast a shadow over the whole album. Maybe it set a mood for it that we followed through. Being Boring was about 3 phases of our life. The first verse, it was about all my friends in Newcastle. I used to go to the youth theatre, and this friend of mine was one of them. It just describes that, and what our aspirations were.
I came across a cache of photos and invitations to teenage parties. Dress in white, one said with quotations from someone's wife, a famous writer in the 1920s. When you're young, you find inspiration in anyone who's ever gone.
And then the second verse, I moved to London, as I did, to go to North London Polytechnic, and just describes, the excitement of that.
When I went, I left from the station with a haversack and some trepidation. Someone said, if you're not careful, you'll have nothing left and nothing to care for in the 1970s. But I sat back and looking forward, my shoes were high and I had scored. I bolted through a closing door, and I would never find myself feeling bored.
And then the third verse is looking back on what's happened, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and he's dead. I mean, it's quite simple. When you've got a best friend, you just assume they'll always be around, and that not being the case.
Now I sit with different faces in rented rooms and foreign places. All the people I was kissing, some are here and some are missing in the 1990s. I never dreamt that I would get to be the creature that I always meant to be. But I thought, in spite of dreams, you'd be sitting somewhere here with me.
I remember Chris and I having a meeting in the office on Sunday afternoon, and we got the chart position phoned through, and it went in the charts like number 32 or something. We couldn't believe it.
Being Boring is one of our favourite songs ever. It just goes to show that what you like yourself might not be the most commercial, which is a constant dilemma I've realised in this business. It's such a moving song, so sad and everything.
And one of the nice things was about Being Boring is that it got this reputation as one of our best songs, and people were always saying how much they loved it. I remember being surprised when we played at the Universal Amphitheatre in Los Angeles in 1991, because Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses came backstage and said how much he liked the show, and he said, "But why didn't you play Boring Man? I just love that song." And that's a very bad imitation of him. And I thought, wow, Axl Rose likes being boring.
'Cause we were never being boring. We had too much time to find for ourselves, and we were never being boring. We dressed up and fought and thought to make amends, and we were never holding back, worried that time would come to an end. We were always hoping that, looking back, you could always rely on a friend. And we were never being boring. We were never being bored, 'cause we were never being boring. We were never being bored.
Checking a TV ad for the bilingual album, August 1996.
Shall we go and watch this video so we can phone them back? Yes, Chris?
Yeah.
Is this the volume?
Ya está aquí el nuevo álbum de Pet Shop Boys. Incluye los éxitos Before y Sea Vida That's the Way Life Is.
I don't know if I like having the voiceover.
Let's reject it just for the sake of it. Should we? Should we?
I thought it was quite good apart from...
Hi, Gabby. Yeah, we don't like this advert at all. This advert we've got, yeah, at all. All right. Anyway, more importantly, the restaurant booking. Is it a bit pretentious having it in a foreign language?
Oh, I of course don't like that angle of it. Actually, it's not I don't like the bit being in foreign language, I don't like his voice.
I don't think you can beat Simon Bates, though, for voiceovers.
They asked us to do his show when he went away on holiday.
We said, yeah, we'd do it, but we'd like to do it as a real radio show. We want to come in the studio, receive the faxes live on air, get the phone calls, and play contemporary music. That really did appeal to us, because at the time, there were so many great records, and they weren't generally being played on the radio. Things like Felix, Don't You Want Me, and Brothers in Rhythm, all those sort of records. And I thought, yeah, if I was listening to radio, this is the kind of stuff I'd want to listen to.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning on BBC Radio 1 FM. And for the next 2 hours, here are the Pet Shop Boys.
Hello, this is Neil Tennant.
I'm Chris Lowe with the Pet Shop Boys.
And this is the Golden Hour.
What was the year?
We are the Pet Shop Boys, absolutely live here on Radio 1 with the Golden Hour. Chris Lowe playing all the records.
Right, a couple of clues. Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson, the previously unbeaten world heavyweight champion in Tokyo. And West Germany won the World Cup, beating Argentina. I'll put on another record now, folks. There we go. Oh, you've been listening to Sweet Sensation, Shades of Rhythm. Coming up now, Such a Good Feeling, remixed by Sasha, who's done the mega mix for us for tomorrow.
Every day we're having a mega mix, 20 minutes of club music after the 10:30 news. Today's is by Kenny Ken from the Crazy Club, and later on the week a sensational mix by New York's Frankie Knuckles. And that was one of the most nerve-wracking things we've ever done. I always think we sound like a pirate radio station, because we don't sound remotely professional. We used to do jingles for those shows as well, which I used to really like doing. But my favourite one was This Is a Generic Jingle from Pet Shop Boys. And also what with me playing the guitar with birds singing.
Pet Shop Boys in the morning, Radio 1.
Pet Shop Boys, best to you each morning.
When Simon Bates left, they asked us to record a few words of whatever. We recorded So Long Farewell from the Sound of Music soundtrack.
Adapted to fit the occasion. Saying a sad farewell to a great British institution, the Simon Bates Show.
We'll really miss you, Symes.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, goodbye, good luck, from me and him to you.
I thought it was a rather good piece of music, actually. So long, farewell. What a good film that is, Sound of Music.
We decided we're definitely going to do a proper world tour.
We didn't think we'd been theatrical enough on the Derek Jarman tour.
We wanted to visualise the songs as though it was an opera. And then every way we worked it out, it was going to lose an incredible amount of money. It was going to lose £500,000. So in 1990... we, having sold a lot of records, we could afford to lose £500,000. The show had a sort of a plot.
Well, like everything we've done, it was a strange journey. I think that's the only idea anyone ever has for us. Oh, I know, we'll have it, a strange journey.
At the start of the show, we were school children, and at the end of the show, we died, loaded with show business honours. In fact, killed by show business, I think was the idea.
We get dwarfed by our own success. With these massive Oscars, we end up dead.
And in the encore, we're all in heaven, dressed in white with wings. And being the Pet Shop Boys at the end of the show, we go to bed.
Well, into separate beds. And Neil sang Your Funny Uncle. We ended up tucked up in bed, asleep.
We do love you, thank you.
And at the end, your funny uncle staring at all your friends with military bearing, and stop to stand to smile and speak of you directly. Goodbye, shake hands,
I got a call from Stephen Woolley, who'd produced Scandal, and he was doing a new film called The Soldier's Wife. He said, just come and see a preview of it, and I know you're going to love it. And this was the film that was later retitled The Crying Game. And they thought they should have an updated version of The Crying Game. And they'd had the idea, because of the nature of the film, that maybe Boy George would sing it. And we immediately thought it was a very, very good idea. So we had lunch with him, and he was really nice.
I'd never really sat down with them, and I thought, yeah, they're really funny. I thought Neil was quite Oscar Wilde-ish, quick-witted, and Chris was more kind of like Whizzer and Chips, you know, he was more like kind of, you know, street kid, which is how I imagined him. If you look at all the early Pet Shop Boys videos, you know, he was the kind of rough trade, and Neil was the kind of, you know, the Fey one, the Fey character.
And we went down to the studio, and I got the sheet music of the song. This was the following week, just to work out the key to do it in. And he was amazed that I could play the piano. I think somehow with Pet Shop Boys, people always assume that everyone does everything else for us somehow. They're not really musical at all.
I said to Neil, you know, the song's in the wrong key for me. I mean, I can't sing that high, you'll have to change it. So he sat down at the piano and started playing, and I was gobsmacked. Because I'd been one of those people that thought, oh yeah, they just use like machines, and I didn't think Neil had any talent. I mean, I have to really say that I just thought the guy's talentless and he's just winging it. Before I worked with them, I thought that Chris did all the work and Neil just kind of sat there waving his hands. And when he sat down and started playing the piano and transposing the song, I was like, egg on the face. I was really gobsmacked.
I know all there is to know about the crying game. I've had my share of the crying game.
Answering questions from fans, November 1996.
What do you prefer, the sun or the moon? Alejandro, Spain. Alejandro, Spain.
I thought you were going to say, would you prefer the sun or the mirror?
A better question, wouldn't it?
Difficult one. What do you prefer, the sun or the moon? The sun, obviously. It's because it's hot and everything.
What about the serious moonlight?
Moonlight is sort of serious, isn't it? I like a full moon. The full moon the other night.
I get more of an emotional response from the moon. But at the end of the day, the sun's a bit more useful because it gives us all our energy.
You get an emotional response from the sun. On a sunny day, you come bouncing in.
There's nothing like a new moon, though, is there? With the stars shining.
A new moon on Monday.
The twinkling of the stars.
I remember we did Being Boring on Top of the Pops, and I thought we looked terrible. And we both thought this whole way of being the Pet Shop Boys has got to sort of change a bit. And our American manager, Armour, said to us, how can we do this amazing show and your videos aren't like that? Of course, this had never entered our heads, needless to say. And we said, oh, it's a good idea.
We decided to have a complete change of style for everything to do with Very. I've been playing a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff, and I thought it'd be, instead of making a traditional video, put us into computer landscapes rather than real landscapes and make us more of a cartoon character. We wanted to wear abstract costumes and things like that as a reaction against everyone being dead normal. I mean, it was the height of laddishness and everyone was just wearing baggy jeans, trainers, t-shirts, anoraks.
So on this, the first video, Can You Forgive Her, we actually literally had our own sort of universe which we then set out to create using computer graphics. And David Fielding came up with these brilliant costumes based on the line in Can You Forgive Her about being at school. So we had the idea that we were the dunces. So we invented huge dunces caps for us, forever after known as the pointy hats. In fact, they were meant to be dunces caps. And then we relentlessly went on, and when we did Go West, we designed new costumes. So we had the idea that every song was going to have a completely new look. And what we were trying to get towards was the day where Chris and I wouldn't have to be in the video. We could be digital creatures. You just made the video and you had us on computer, kind of on file, you could change us around, and unfortunately we still haven't reached that day. Go West It was written as a gay anthem about all the gays moving to San Francisco. That's what was the Village People's angle. And then when we did it, in the era of AIDS, we kind of made it slightly sadder, because that dream had sort of soured, it had died away in many ways.
There where the air is free will be what we want to be. Now if we make a stand, we'll find our promised land. There are many ways in the sun or shade. We will find a place where there's so much space, and the pace back east, rustling just to feet, ready to lead to. So that's what we are gonna do. What we're gonna do is go away. Life is peaceful there, there in the open air, where the skies are blue. This is what we're gonna do.
I'd been going to watch Arsenal play for a few years and stuff. Our office got a phone call out of the blue from Ian Wright's management or agent or whatever, saying he was interested in doing a record. Couldn't possibly say no. I was really excited by it. So he eventually came down the studio and actually it was a hit in Japan. Ian Wright in Japan is known as a pop singer first and a footballer second. And then Go West happened. That kind of even more solidified the connection. The first time we heard it was Paris Saint-Germain. They were singing, "Ohé, Paris Saint-Germain, ohé." And then everyone started singing 1-0 to the Arsenal because we kept winning 1-0 all the time. And then other teams started sort of singing answer backs to that, which you can't say on the radio, but you're, and you know you are. Actually, I think that's our greatest achievement, really. We've always wanted to have a song sung by football supporters, and Go West ended up the football anthem of all of Europe.
Chris actually recorded with Ian Wright over our backing track, Ian Wright singing 1-0 to the Arsenal. And he made a video. They played this video at Arsenal at half-time. It's a hoot.
1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Sing it with me now.
If you use gay imagery and you are gay, it sort of negates it, really, because you sort of expect it. Whereas if you don't know whether they're gay or not, and they've got this imagery, it makes it more sort of exotic and interesting, I think. It gave you a kind of freedom to be more enigmatic and for people to have their own interpretation of what you're about. Actually, in some ways, it made gay imagery more interesting.
I like ambiguity. I think it's quite good that you can think, I know what he's on about there, or whatever, but it's not instantly obvious, it's not a very direct one.
But by this point I thought, I'm sure everyone knows I'm gay anyway. There's no pretense, really. I was 40 years old, and all my friends knew I was gay. So I decided to do this interview. Wasn't exactly hold the front page, I don't think. There's always this kind of gay mythology that when you come out publicly, it's meant to be kind of the great liberating moment of your life. It didn't, to me, seem to be a very big deal. I know it's heretical to say this, but it didn't really seem to make any difference.
It's up to him what he wants to do. I wouldn't have done that. I mean, nothing I do is anyone else's business as far as I'm concerned. It just isn't. There's one sexuality as far as I'm concerned. There's only one. And so it doesn't really matter what the configuration is to that. I don't like people making assumptions about me. They should only believe things that they've heard from me. And seeing as I don't like to say very much, they shouldn't know very much.
I do think in centuries to come, people will look back on this period of human history and think it weird that people define themselves by their sexuality. It does become annoying that people see everything as a major gay statement. I've always said, and people probably assume it's sort of bullshit, that I write songs from different points of view. I've often written lyrics, this is still the case, imagining that I'm writing from a woman's point of view, or from a straight man's point of view. I don't just write from the point of view of a gay man. I mean, on the most recent album, Bilingual, there is a gay statement, the song Metamorphosis. It is about what I felt when I was younger. You know, I didn't want to be gay. I wanted to be straight. I imagined myself having children, being married. And you realise it's not going to happen. Single Bilingual is about a straight man. It's meant to be completely straight. But with doubts, that's why the pun on bilingual and bisexual, I suppose. Before, I imagined that Rent was sung by a woman. And then finally it was when Liza did it.
Look at my hopes, look at my dreams, the currency we've spent. I love you, you pay my rent.
We decided to do a tour of Latin America. It was just a real spur-of-the-moment thing. We thought we'd do one where you can get up and dance and more of a party atmosphere. One of the themes of the concert was doing medleys with other songs in. We did It's a Sin with I Will Survive, One in a Million Men with Mr. Vane, Culture Beat. And we did Left to My Own Devices, which suddenly goes into Rhythm of the Night. It's quite good. It was always an uplifting moment doing those things. It was such a surprise.
But in the back of my head, I heard distant feet, Che Guevara and Debussy to a disco beat. This is the rhythm of the night.
Went to a samba school, and the samba drums are just so brilliant, very uplifting and powerful. And there's also this record that we kept hearing on the radio, and it had this real dum 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 sort of rhythm.
And we used a rhythm like that on several tracks, like Single Bilingual. So though not all of Bilingual has got Latin drums on it, several of the tracks have.
Se a Vida is actually based on a Brazilian song. There's a very famous Brazilian group called Olodum, and it's based on one of their songs. And Se a Vida was one line.
O sopro que vem do mar me faz feliz. Eu quero te bronzear, ser tua flor de lis. Eu quero ser teu amor, te namorar. Eu quero espantar a dor pra outro lugar.
We changed the music actually quite a lot, but it's based on that.
So obviously they get a lot of the publishing of that song.
The reviews of this album are weird, I think, because they say it's their most upbeat album and all this, and I think, God, I mean, it's not how I mean, I find it one of the most tragic, sad, emotional albums we've ever made.
It's quite a sort of heavy album, really. But I think of Discoteca, it's about normality, you know, in the face of death, up against it, to step aside, you know, all the Pet Shop Boys are going to break up, which is ultimately what that's about. Metamorphosis. You know, there's quite a lot of songs about heavy subjects there, if you like. I think it's also about growing older, how things seem to become more complicated. That's why in Se a Vida, you know, life is much more simple when you're young. Chris and I had an endless philosophical debate about whether life is much more simple when you're young. But it is. I mean, I think when you are younger, you see things in a simpler way and your priorities are simpler. And when you get older, it seems more confusing and more difficult. And that is very much a theme of the album as well.
All the reviews were upbeat, happy party time. And I just couldn't see it. But I think that's because people relate samba drums to party, therefore it's up. Actually, one of the things we've always done is upbeat tempo and sad melodies and chords, so you get the antagonism.
In terms of the concept of the album, if you like, the start of the album, you get the voice saying, discoteca por aquí, is there a disco near here? Someone who's going out and carrying on as normal. But it takes a while to go out and carry on as normal in this album. In many ways it reflects our first album, Please, which started with someone running away into the night. And I think we're still doing that. And right at the end of the album, you get to the disco, you get to the fun disco. After you go through all the heartache and the pain and the weirdness, you actually get to dance at the end. So it's just a very simple, upbeat ending.
That was the idea, that you actually end up in the club. You start off looking for one, and then you end in one. And it's the ultimate Saturday night, Saturday night forever. It just goes on and on. It's never going to end.
There you go.
Are we finished? Excellent.
Marvellous.
About the Pet Shop Boys was made by Chris Heath with Lucy Armitage.